So we have 20 people that submitted beautiful work. I'm the only one that's seen everything for our clay challenge, which was making a piece that's geometric and organic at the same time. And that was a theme that was introduced by Ian, and he has some very nice work that demonstrates that as well. Now, before I get started though, is there anybody who didn't send their photographs into me and wants to show their pieces live? Wave your hands like back and forth furiously while I see you, till I see you. Okay, great, nobody. So that's fantastic. So then if you give me a second, I'm going to share my screen. I'm really just pressing the buttons here. That's all I do. So when you're presenting your work, just let me know if you want me to go forward and back. I'm going to try to keep it we should try to keep it between 3 to 4 minutes per person in order to get through this. That would include questions. And so I'm going to share my screen now. And we're going to get started. So let's show. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes, everybody sees it. Shake your head. Okay, all right. So we're going to start with Marie Chiefam. Marie, are you there? You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I am. Hello.
All right, let's tell us about your stuff.
Well, I got a wonderful new extruder from Mud Tools called Push, and I'm in love with it. So I began to, and this challenge came up just as I was learning about how to work with it. So I extruded these cylindrical forms and I patterned them and manipulated the tops. And I'm calling this Johnny Jump Ups. They're those flowers that push up through the mulch in the garden and somehow make it up. And I patterned the cylinders and I colored them with underglaze and stuck them all together and made some little babies coming up at the bottom. And then then I fired it and fired it at I fired it at cone 5 and with clear glaze. And then I hand extruded the little tongues, the little stamen that come licking out of their tops. So that's it. It's organic and geometrical at the same time.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Marie? You're gonna have to unmute and speak up because I can't see everybody. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Marie, thank you. And
Thank you.
I saw that push extruder and I'm jealous.
I beg your pardon?
I saw that push extruder from.
Oh, I love that thing.
I bet you do.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Thank you.
It's an electric extruder. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Luann Smith. Luann, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All righty. So tell us about your work.
Okay. Well, I decided I wanted to make pentagon-shaped luminaries with geometric patterning and organic cutouts, and obviously the bird on top is organic. So I made a couple different variations, and yeah, I thought they came out well. The fired them at cone 10. The birds are underglaze and the luminaries are regular glaze. So.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Luann? Okie doke. Okay, Rudy can't be here, because she's a new grandma and she's trying to get tickets to go see her new grandson. But Rudy wanted me to say that when she hand builds her figure, she constantly sees organic curvilinear shapes that flow from one point to another, from one joint to another. At the same time, there's some kind of symmetry to our human bodies, both inside or out. And so this sculpture, she felt, exemplifies those feelings of both geometry and organic that she feels when she's doing her hand building. So I can't answer any questions for Rudy, but I sort of really love the, I don't know, is the grape heart? I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I think that's a really nice touch. So I'm going to move on to Jennifer Robles. Are you here? Yikes. Well, Jennifer takes a lot of inspiration when she takes her dogs out for a walk. This year it was poppies, and she tried to capture the organic pattern of the petals with underglaze and carvings on the mugs. She uses Laguna B mix, Amoca Flame Orange Velvet Underglaze, and Amoca C11 Mixing Clear. The process and outcomes are a lot of fun. Oh, I guess I wrote this twice, so there we go. But there's her original inspiration, the poppies, and there's her unglazed, so you can really see the carving and the underglaze work that she's doing. And I can say, because she sells a lot on the online store, she also has been doing fabulous sunflowers and other flowers this year. And there are her finished poppy mugs. You can see these for sale in the gallery as well. Okay. Next, Nadia. Uh-oh, it's like all the people that aren't here. Nadia is not going to be here, but she said this spherical vase resembles a floating celestial body surrounded with striated clouds similar to the planet Venus. It's wheel thrown with two different clays, carefully trimmed and burnished to accentuate the marbling effect. So it's a marbled vase, and as she says, it can be used just as itself, as a standing piece, but it also looks lovely with flowers and greens in it. So this is her interpretation of organic and geometric at the same time. Lauren Hansen,
Hello.
I know you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
You can hear me?
Barely. Can you?
A little closer.
Okay.
Okay. So I just did a couple of porcelain pieces. This is a large platter. I've always thought of myself as someone who just has an aversion to straight lines and geometry and all that since as far as I can remember, and I don't do things that I think of as geometric. But then I began to think about it. In nature, there's a lot of geometry in nature. For instance, the flower, and this is a lotus, which has, I think, 4 layers of 5 petals going down. And so in the middle, I made it more naturalistic. I set it at an angle. So, and then, but for the outside, I think that's a kind of geometry, arches, and a lot of the patterning from different cultures comes from the local flowers and leaves and whatever is around. So that's what that piece is about.
Hang on, let me get to the next one. Why isn't it going there?
Oh, it's a little tea bowl, and there's 4 views of the same tea bowl. So I started with round, I squared it, and then I started to make it go more organic by altering the shape and the top. And in between the morning glories, which is a traditional Chinese and Japanese flower pattern, I put the pentagon. So the morning glories are also a 5-pointed pentagon geometric shape. So I did the patterning with a bunch of pentagons. Same as the other one, carved porcelain.
So on the plate, did you carve that directly, or did you carve a mold and press it in? What's your process?
I draw and carve everything by hand. Don't
And
use
beautiful.
molds. Thank you.
And Lori, the behind the lotus, that pattern, it's almost a honeycomb. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't think of it as a honeycomb, but I thought of it as geometric. And I was thinking if I had done more of these, that the honeycomb is a really great example of geometry in nature.
Any other
Beautiful.
questions? Any other questions or comments for Lauren? Really, really lovely. All right. Next, Betty Schneider. I saw you. You're here. Unmute yourself and speak up. Cheer. Betty? I can't see everybody. Okay, she's there. Betty, you need to unmute yourself. Here, let me.
I
There
think
you
I
go.
I did.
Awesome. You're gonna have to start over though. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Did you not have my words that went with it?
I maybe I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to remember what I said then. This is a triangular shape, and it's a play on the triangle, but it also has the organic feel of the leaf pattern on each of the three sides, and then the three yellow birds, and the repeating pattern of the 3 feet. It was hand built, and most of the glaze is high fire glaze reduction, except of course the birds are done with underglaze, yellow underglaze. Okay.
Okay.
And this is my spherical geometric form. I'm starting with a ball that was made by hand in a Dutch mold. And it was carved to give it the more organic feel, and it was glazed in chino. And then the nest is extruded. It's an extruded, like a garlic press kind of, and then formed into the little circular concave nest, and 5 little turquoise eggs. Those are under glaze, and it was all put together with a piece of driftwood and some E6000.
Does anybody have any questions for Betty? I particularly like this one, but I have a soft spot for triangles.
Yeah, me too.
Is that a soda chino?
No, it's probably a combination of three different chinos: the bee chino, Malcolm's, and orange chino.
It almost looks like an ash glaze the way it's kind of running. Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? That's just what happened in the reduction firing.
Mm.
It just depends on. It was pretty thick. It was applied very thick.
Really? So it's like it's almost translucent around the texture.
Yeah, I think you've got the wrong picture, Stacy, but try the
What?
bird's nest.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
There's the
Sorry.
chino. Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
Betty, what is the glaze on the nest?
On the nest, there is no, wait a minute. Maybe that's chino too, or either that, or it might just be the clay itself.
Oh, okay. I like it.
I used a dark clay, and I think I put a clear on it, if I'm not mistaken. It was made a while back, so I can't remember for sure.
Okay. Anything else for Betty? All right, Terry, you're up.
Okay. Well, it's a clock, as you can see. So I combined the circle and a hexagon, and then used my my leaf motif for the decoration. And there's a second picture that shows that that it's sort of like an inverted, a shallow bowl or plate. So it's a little bit curved there. And there's no glaze. It's just red, Terra red clay on the outside, and I believe that's SRF clay for the hexagon. And after I pressed the leaf in, I smeared a bunch of a light clay on top. As a stencil kind of technique. And then I used B3 brown for the 6 little tiny leaves on the red, the outer plate. So
I like-
I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. So I'll enter this in the Beatrice wood.
I like the way your corners and the leaves like alternate for the numbers on the clock.
Yeah.
I think that's clever.
Thank you.
Other comments for Terry? Okay, Bethany? Bethany, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just took an alternative firing workshop, and it was an incredible week. And so these are aluminum foil saggers. This piece, this bowl, there's that one and then the next one, and they're both aluminum foil saggers. So we sprayed the piece with ferric chloride to get the orangey effects, and put plant matter and salt and all kinds of things in there, and then wrapped it pretty tight in aluminum foil, and then just fired it and let it cool and unwrapped it, and then went, wow. So it's really fun. I just really enjoyed it because you get color and texture, and you just don't really know what you're going to get.
And you just had the 2, right? I'm not, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does
So you can see like there's some of the plant impression there on that photo.
What temperature, what cone do you fire these to?
You know, they did it in the workshop and they gave us a little packet, so I have to look it up for you.
Oh, was
I
it
just
fired
don't-
in a kiln? Or
Yeah, in a gas
Yeah.
kiln.
Oh,
Did you take the workshop with Don and Randy up in Tahoe?
I did, and
I've
was so
taken that with
fun.
them. They are
It was
fabulous.
So fun. Yeah, they're amazing. We got amazing results, and we did like 6 different techniques in 5 days.
Yeah.
fun? Fantastic.
Super fun. Yeah, it was super fun.
Does anybody have any questions for Bethany?
I'm more curious about the workshop because I hadn't heard anything about it. You stayed in a hotel or you camped out, or how did it work?
Yeah, there's hotels and there's Airbnbs and there's dorms because it's part of Sierra Nevada University, which is on Lake Tahoe in the Incline Village.
Well, heck. Should have gone to college there.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. They have a whole summer arts workshop series with, a bunch of different potters and painters and songwriters. And they even have a guy this year that does the laser cut wood and makes lamps. It's just a lot of really neat stuff going on up there.
That's good to know.
I think my question would be for anybody. Could I get away with doing this in a kiln, an electric kiln, without ruining the kiln? Because I would assume there's some exhaling going on from the pot.
Yeah, I asked Don the same question because I want to do this at home. It's because it's so fun. And he said, you're going to have aluminum foil bits all over, but you just take a shop vac and you vacuum it out.
I think if you put it in a sagger, you will be better served.
Yeah, you could double sagger it in a clay sagger.
Right.
Okay, Bethany, I think you should come over and we'll put it in my kiln, my old kiln, not my new one, my
Yeah,
old kiln. I think that would be fun.
That would be fun. We could just take some old unwanted pots and do this and just
Oh, I
have a
don't
good
have any of those,
I have a few that are unloved.
but I'm gonna write your name down and give you a call.
Okay.
Were they bisque fired to cone 10, 010 instead of 04?
You know, my pieces were bisque fired to 04 since they were fired at school. But Don and Randy told me they only bisque fire all of this stuff to 08 because they think it absorbs their glazes better.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could submit a little information to the next newsletter so that some of us could explore those workshops in more detail.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Meredith Linden.
Yep, I'm here.
All right.
I ran out of time for firing, so it's greenware. Whoops.
Sorry.
The organic is basically my whole process. So like Lauren, I have trouble with geometry. I can't, even when I try to do something ordered, it comes out very organic looking anyway. But the geometry is the pairs of wells that are aligned, you know, put in between the structures. It was originally a flat thing that I was making, and then it didn't work out, and I just draped it over a bowl, and then I was like, I mean, a mold thing, and oh, well, let's see what I can do with this. So I'm eager to fire it and glaze it, because I'm going to attempt to do some pooling in those little wells. So, and it's Moroccan sand clay.
Any questions for Meredith? Okay. All righty. So, Yvonne Kavanaugh, Throne Stoneware, fired to cone 10. Are you here, Yvonne?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. What would you like to say about this beautiful pot?
So I actually, this is from a body of work I've been working on. So it fit the theme. So I kind of cheated. I made this maybe 6 months ago, and I have a tiny piece similar to it in my hand, if you can see me on the screen. But I've been working with the idea of black and white stripes on a piece with the organic colors flowing next to. And so when I saw the theme, I immediately thought I wanted to share one of these pieces. And I'm still working on this idea. I'm using underglazes, but I'm high firing them in a gas reduction without glaze on top of them. I usually glaze just the inside of my work because I like the non-shiny quality. The one I'm holding in my hand, though, I did glaze, and it does have a shine, and it's pretty. But I also really prefer soda fire and that technique, but I can never do it except going to a workshop because there's no soda fire kiln anywhere near me. And so I feel like I'm always sort of chasing the idea of my work having that soda quality to it, even though this doesn't look soda at all. But in my mind, I'm getting a little closer to not having that shine, but still having that feel to the work. Anyway, I could probably keep talking forever, so I'll be quiet. But it was fun to think about this work again and remember that I need to keep working on this. So thanks for letting me share.
Yvonne, what about soda firing do you like? I'm an aficionado. I love salt firing, but soda firing is you know.
I don't know if I even know the difference between salt and soda. I just know that I've taken workshops with soda at Idlewild, and I've actually shipped work to Montana to be salt fired by somebody because there's nowhere around me. What I like is the surprise when you open the kiln, for one thing. I love that. My least favorite part of ceramics is the glazing. I like using underglazes, but like dipping glazes and just using high fire cone 10 glazes, I don't feel like that's my strength. And so I'm interested in finding alternative ways of getting color and surface design on my work. Sometimes I do porcelain without putting any glaze on it at all. Like I love that quality of high fired porcelain with nothing. So that's one firing technique that I always kind of go back to. And when I see workshops that are offering that, I try and sign up. I've done it at Mendocino Art Center as well. I actually loaded and fired the wood fire kiln there. That's a chore. I don't need to do that again. But yeah, so.
Any more questions?
I have a question. So that's just on go. There's no like Grizzly Boreate or anything to. Seems like it's kind of got a shiny.
It's.
Surface.
I know it seems that way, but there's no glaze on that. It's just a commercial. I think it's Amoca. It might be Speedball underglaze onto bisque fired, and and this is Black Mountain clay, so maybe some of that clay body is giving that quality to it. I love that clay body without any glaze too. I'm always searching for clay bodies that I don't have to glaze that just look beautiful after the high fire.
But it was a cone 10?
It's cone 10 reduction.
Some of the underglazes do have a slight sheen at cone 10.
Yeah.
Very commonly.
That might be what's coming through. I did fire this quite a while ago, so I honestly can't. I think the ones at the top give a little shine. That green, maybe that blue. Yeah.
Those of you that like atmospheric firings, have you been to the Amoca exhibit? I think it's still going on. I'm trying to see if it is, where a woman took 50 identical pots with an identical glaze and sent them to 50 states for wood firing in each state.
Oh, that's awesome.
Most of them were at universities, but some of them were, you know, just people that were doing a wood fire, and they have tremendous amount of detail. And of course, every pot is completely different, even though it's the same clay, the same plot, and the same glaze. And some of the people provided a lot of detail on how they fired in the wood fire kiln. So let me see if that.
I was going to say a lot of what happens in a wood fire kiln has to do with the soil and the minerals in the soil that the wood is grown in. And
absolutely.
I love that. I hope it's still up, and I'll go see it if it is.
Well, I'm just looking, and I'm thinking maybe it's not. I'm sorry, but I bet you could look online at their past exhibits and see it. It was, I mean, Foz, to your point, some people said, oh, we used this kind of ash for the first 3 hours and this kind of maple for the next 8 hours, and then we finished with this. And some people only did a wood fire in 8 hours. So, I mean, it was like really, really interesting.
Oh, I love that. Yep. Totally interested.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How many coats of underglaze do you need to put on so that the blackness doesn't come through and obliterate your underglaze?
This was, like I said, that dark brown Black Mountain clay, and I know I put at least 2 coats of underglaze. You can see the clay coming through the white, but I kind of like that. If I would have put 3 coats, it probably would have covered it completely. I think I did put 3. Well, I think on this little guy, I did 3 coats, and it's a lighter clay body. I don't know if you can see me holding this up, but this one, it's more solid white and black, and it's a lighter clay body. But I definitely at least 2 coats.
The show at Amoca is called 50 Bowls, 50 States, 10 Wood Fires. It closes on July 24th.
Which was
Yesterday?
yesterday.
Yeah,
Oh,
yesterday. But they have
Yes.
pictures on their website.
Okay, great.
Hey, but the current exhibit, there's an exhibit of the work of Elena Hayes. And those of us that know her have taken classes with her at Ventura College. And she's got a show of her bloops at Amoca right now.
Oh, fantastic.
Yay, Elena. All right. So moving on. Yes. Thank you, Yvonne. It's a beautiful, beautiful pot. I shouldn't have favorites, but that was one of them. Okay, Ro. Are you here, Ro? Okay, so Ro took a diamond shaped form and she turned it on its side to make alternating sections. So you can see there what she means.
Yeah.
And oh, Margot, Ro, are you there?
Yes.
Then I will shut up and let you talk.
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, you said, you talked about the form, and I like the diamond shaped form, and I wanted to incorporate it into something different. So I turned it on its side and alternated the middle, and the top, so it would have an angular shape to it. And used a few stamps on it just to give it a little something different, and put the organic is the flowers and the butterflies. And it's was done at Cone 6. That's it.
Does anybody have questions for Ro?
Nope.
How tall is that, Ro?
It's about 14 inches.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, Jeannie.
All right, I'm here.
There you go.
So I'm doing a series for a show that's going to be down at the Maritime Museum in another month. So this little guy, he's stacked a stone. This is all clay with velvet underglazes on. Now he's been bisqued, but he hasn't been glaze fired yet. So that's the next step. So he will be a little shiny. Oh, I kind of like a matte like this. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll leave him matte. Maybe I need some opinions on that. And again, my stacked stones, again, all clay. The clay is cone 10 sold 8, but fired to cone 5. So it gives kind of a nice soft color to it. And then the little bird, again, with a cone 5 glaze on it as well. Using a rod going through to hold all the pieces together. And this will also have a rod going through to hold the pieces together. So should I glaze it or keep it matte?
Keep it matte.
Keep it
Yeah,
matte.
keep that.
Keep it matte.
Yeah,
I like it.
Matte. Keep it matte. It's beautiful.
yeah, I kind of like it that way. So I will refire it so it'll set those colors in, but looks kind of cool, Matt.
You could have the fish eyes glazed.
I'll give a little shine to them, huh?
Yeah, just shine those eyes.
Glaze it.
That's a good idea.
Change it.
Yeah. Any questions for Jeannie?
I like it like it is.
Yeah, no glaze on those rocks. No glaze on those, just the raw clay.
Okay, Ian. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
So look at this. This is pretty spectacular.
Mike. Yeah, this is always the fun part for me, though, talking about it. I don't know, this kind of like organic geometric stuff for me, it comes from kind of a little bit of a deeper place. Studied Buddhism for a while, and just kind of the how kind of one like defines the other, you know, without one, the other one kind of wouldn't exist. And like, just in teaching over the last like five years or so, I've just been kind of getting more and more into patterns and glazes and stuff like that. And it's a little bit hard to explain in words, but I think in a lot of ways, the organic kind of brings out the geometric, like someone else was saying. I've never really been into that like kind of hard geometry myself much, the really stiff, like clean work. But I do like it. It has a place, for sure. And these are all kind of just improvisational pieces. And I don't know.
Do you want me to go through them one by one and you can talk about them?
Sure.
Okay, there you go.
This one, this one's glazed. It's just glazed with iron oxide. It's sold 860 to cone 10. It's not that big compared to the other ones. It's probably about 14 inches or so. The grids you see, this one was made kind of a while ago, I should say. And the grids you see are those like light diffusers in the top of like the cover fluorescent lighting, you know, in an elevator. So I started kind of pirating textures from places that I would go, like just bring clay with me and be like, I like that texture. I'm gonna slam the clay against the wall and it wouldn't steal the wall itself, but steal the print. Anyway, a lot of these like the diamonds you'll see there, that's a doormat, you know. And there's just a lot of my work was just coming from like patterns that I see the negative for in places around me, like benches and floors and ceilings and all sorts of stuff. This is actually only has two, and this is more geometric than some of them for sure. This one's barely geometric at all. But those lines that you're seeing there are the negative of sorry, my voice is going. It's the negative of a bench, a wooden bench. So those are 2x4s, and I just slapped the slab down and pulled it off, and then you can kind of see if you look to the far right bottom piece. There's kind of concentric circles, but you're getting a side angle of, so it's not really easy to see. This piece is kind of rather large and kind of has different personalities on each side. I'll admit that for sure. I really like the glaze on this piece here. I worked with this one on several pieces, and it has a tendency to go the whole range of like from luster, deep green, sea green to like harsh kind of desert brown. And I just like it. I do like it. It's a lithium glaze, and it's a barium glaze, I mean. And yeah. This one was me bored in the garage. I don't have a studio in the garage, and just, you know, a lot of thrown pulled coils and stuff like that. It was kind of nice. This one was weird because I was working on a round table, like one that you could kind of walk all the way around. When I was trying to take a picture of it, I couldn't find the top of it. So like you can kind of, I don't know, twist the screen or whatever, and you'll see a bunch of different, this one to me looks like a face from this angle, but this was just kind of like playing around a little bit, like jazzy, you know. I could go on. The thing that's hard about work like this is it's easy to go overboard, you know. It was hard for me to just to stop, and it's not fired. It's still actually in this piece, in this picture, very wet still, very fragile. This one has the same textures going on as the other one with the light diffuser and the doormat. This was kind of me experimenting with alternative glaze techniques. This is actually shoe polish and turpentine, and you can't really see it very well in this picture, but it has a really like waxy kind of sheen to it. It's kind of lush in person, but yeah, it's a very time consuming, labor intensive process to get wax on all those cracks and brush it out and stuff like that. So it was the results were worth it, but I don't think it's one for the like the day-to-day type work, you know. So, yeah, that piece. Oh, there you go. Yeah, pardon me. Here goes my voice again. So we have coil, pinch, and slab work here. The basics. This piece is actually pretty large. It's kind of like hard to carry around. I was lucky that I had a big enough kiln for it when I fired it, and we actually it barely fit or into it, didn't really fit into the electric kiln, so we had to lay like this ring of insulation on the outside of the kiln and just pop the lid back on over it. Yeah, this piece, it's got a really nice like graphite look. When you get a little bit closer, it's a little bit saturated in this shot, but yeah, I really like that kind of almost like pencil lead kind of soft, like old look. A lot of my work ends up having a really kind of like ancient weathered feel to it, and I kind of like that. So I don't know, maybe I'm just getting what I asked for, you know, subconsciously. And this was put on with a sprayer too. So after you get that first coat on, you really, at least I don't remember how thick the glaze is on each place. So you'll get like certain spots that are really thick where you see the graphite splotch there, you know. And I think it came out pretty good overall. I like it. These kind of pieces, they take a long time, so I'll have to make 2 or 3 of them at a time, just because my process is very slow. Like each piece has to be able to support the pieces going above it and that, but then it also has to be soft enough to bend, like in some of these forms. So like come one day, bend one piece, put it on, and then I wouldn't like attach it the same day. I'd come back the next day so they kind of equalize, and then attach it that day, and then in the interim I'd be working on another piece or 2 other pieces, just to keep having things to do. Just because if I'm just working on this piece, I'm going all the way to the studio for an hour, you know, and after an hour I got nothing to do. So that's pretty much it, you know.
Does
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask if anybody had any questions for you.
I'd like to know, with the textures, it looks a little bit like snakeskin or something. You said that's from a light grid. do you put a slab on it, and then after you pull the slab off, you mold it into those tubular shapes? And how do you keep the texture from being obliterated?
Those are all good questions. Well, the grid shape comes from, I ended up buying these light diffusers. Pardon me, here comes my voice. So what I'll do is I'll let the slab, I'll roll it in a slab roller, and then kind of let it true up overnight, so it's gets a little bit harder, so I can move it around without nicking it so much. And then it's kind of like I'll put a little bit of like coconut oil or something on the grid itself, so it's a little bit easier to release. And then it's kind of like a systematic pressing down of the slab on the roller, because on the pattern, because if you get too deep, it'll kind of stick and hold and it really won't pull out. It's kind of hard to it's hard to explain. But then once you start to put this all together, that's when it really kind of gets hard, because you can't touch it anymore. So you're kind of building a lot of these pieces from the inside out. And then like, that's why there's always a couple holes at the top, you know, they can't be fully sealed. Well, that one was kind of, that one's smaller.
I had a question about the first piece.
Okay.
I was wondering about the first piece, what the color on it. You said you used iron oxide, but I see some reds and greens, and I was wondering how you got
it's
color on there.
really just iron oxide, and then like subtractive too. You know, like I put it on really thick, and then I kind of just like wash it off with like a sponge kind of. Not too much though. I didn't want it to get. It's also kind of a darker clay. It's like a Soldate 60 clay, so it's not going to go like white on the parts where I wash it off a little bit. That'd be a little too much. But I hear you. It does have a little bit of a
Green
it almost
and
looks like
red,
it's red clay or something.
Also, wondering how high you fire.
This one is cone 10. Right now I have a cone 10 kiln, but I just bought it about 6 weeks ago, and I haven't used it yet. I've been kind of busy doing other things.
Do you have, your form seems so complicated. Do you have much trouble with cracking during the firing, say?
Well, you know, I should have more problems than I do. It's a long process, you know, and that's probably like the one thing that I have figured out is how to build these in such a way where they equalize each step of the way. Like this cracking mainly would be caused from thick and thin or unequal areas, and that's why they take so long. Is because I like every time I add a piece, I got to rewrap it back up, wait like 24 hours, come back to it, do the next thing, wrap it up, 24 hours, come back to it, and it's not that it's impossible to make them faster. It's just to get them up to crack, you know. And yeah, learning to build at the right the right level of firmness too. That was to get a clean look. That took me a while. It also took me a while to know when to stop. You know, I would just keep going, and they would be too much. And I don't know. Been doing this for a long time. And like I got in a car accident. Oh, like a car hit me when I was walking on the street about 6 years ago. And so I've been doing like some of these, but more or less more pottery these days, just because it's kind of a quiet, more meditative. These can be kind of, I wouldn't say stressful is not the right word, but they're problem solving, a lot of like front brain stuff. and that was the kind of the part of my brain that was a little sluggish these days. So although it is fun for me, it's just kind of, it's a little more difficult. Then again, these aren't really old. It's just the work that I used to do in college. It was like these, but they were.
Okay, Ian, we can't hear you, but I don't think you muted yourself, so
You hear me?
I'm not
No?
sure. There you go. There you are.
Okay. Keep saying I'm unstable.
Oh, your internet.
not
Okay.
internet.
Any more questions for Ian?
I have one quickie.
Okay.
The one that's flat. That one. So if you make a big flat piece on a wooden something or other, how are you going to move that to the kiln without some end cracking off?
Well, I move it before it's dry onto the kiln.
Okay.
And then a lot of those pieces are made on grog on the kiln shelf. So that's a trick that took me kind of a while to learn. Like just lay down sand or lay down grog, and they'll act as kind of like ball bearings for when the piece shrinks, because those pieces are heavy, and they're gonna do their shrinking thing. And if they don't have any like sand or grog to kind of lubricate that shrinking, they're gonna crack right down the middle of the bottom.
So do you build right on your shelf and then just move the whole thing, including the shelf, into the kiln?
I do. This piece this is one of these things I didn't really know I was going to make that night. I just kind of was in the garage having a good time and just kind of, playing around. I was doing pots and stuff, and this piece just kind of came out. But this piece right here, you can see it's still like glistening. It's still very wet. Probably the next morning or maybe the next evening, I was able to grab it and put it on like a little broken piece of a kiln shelf. And this not being as heavy, I don't need sand or grog really. Those big ones for sure. I have to like premeditate that whole process. But something like this, not really. These are each like hand pulled pieces, so they're not huge.
All right, last call for questions for Ian. Thank you, Ian. And again, Ian gets credit for suggesting our theme for tonight, which I think a lot of people got a lot out of. So thank you, Ian.
You're welcome.
Okay, next, Brenda. Brenda. Where are you, Brenda? You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Brenda, are you there? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, well, that always helps.
There you go. So
this is a sculpture that I've been working on for quite a while. And I just started with a big block of clay, and I just started pulling these lobes out from it. You can, it's a sculpture that can sit in any direction, and it looks different in each one. So this, it's all natural. It's a globe shape. I think it feels very organic to me because of the red iron oxide and the rutile stains I used, and the mossy-like formations down in the center of it that send out shoots reaching for the sky. And I just kind of look at it and think, what is this thing? In 10 million years, what's it going to evolve into? So that's it.
That's beautiful. Does anybody have any questions for Brenda?
Reminds me of coral.
Yeah.
Well, for the longest time, my studio mates, Cassie and Russell and Meredith, I called it the brain. I still don't know what I'm going to name it, but that's what it was called for a while, the brain.
What size is that, Brenda?
I'd say, let's see. I'd say 9 inches across. And boy, is that puppy heavy. I had a lot of cracking in the glaze firing that I didn't even know was there in that, but I've resolved those issues. And there it is. Thank you.
I didn't hear the answer to what size it is.
I would say it's probably 8 inches in diameter, 8 to 9 inches in diameter, depending on how you measure it.
Okay.
Any more questions for Brenda? Okay, Rebecca Catterall. She's got 3
Okay, I'm unmuted. Now my pieces are bisqued. They're going to go into the glaze kiln maybe later tonight. A friend came to visit, a pottery friend came to visit, and we played in the studio for a couple of days doing different techniques, and one of the things we did was marbling, and I really got to like it. So this is marbling slip, and basically you put on one whole sheen of slip, and then you add some other colors to it and you jiggle it around. So it's relatively simple compared to some of the things we've seen with well, you can do this in an afternoon instead of taking weeks. The plates are square, which is why I think it's geometric, and the images are very organic. The plates are 8 inches, 8-inch squares. So it's a fun technique. I've done more than these, and I'm hoping that they come out of the kiln looking even better.
Any questions for Rebecca?
Are those bisque square right now?
Yes, they're bisqued, and I'm going to be doing a border around the edge to kind of frame it a bit, and hopefully the colors will pop even more.
Will you put a clear glaze on it?
The colored area, the marbled area will have a clear. I use the Clear Bright by Laguna, and this is on a B mix with Grog Cone 5, and I'll do a Cone 5 electric.
Do you marbleize those colors on the piece, or do you do it on something else and transfer it to the piece?
No, you do it right on the piece, and then you pour kind of a puddle in the middle, then pour off any extra, and then you add the colors in any kind of a pattern you want, and then by the time you jiggle it around, it does its own thing. And then on this one that's there, I used a slip trailer to add a little bit more color in a straighter line.
Are you using like mason stains to color your slips?
I have basically that. I have a lot of different stains, and some are mason and some predate mason. But basically mason stains with just the white clay. And then I kind of do it no more than 10% for making the colored slips. The pinks and the lighter colors definitely 10%, and some of the blues are less than 10%.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Elena Vernicova. Look, are you here, Elena? I saw you.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about your pieces.
So I have several of them. This piece actually, I finished it recently because I added some piece inside it attached by wire. And I think it's very interesting. I have these pieces with me. At both sides are different patterns. And I think triangular, kind of circular, geometric, and this creature or whatever inside of this space are more about organic. And I call this affiliation because it is something about relationships or, I don't know, some interaction. I think it's just some decoration or sculpture. And another one, this is small flat plate, and I use a textile and slip to put this hair or maybe wing or I don't know, this part of the head, and I carved a little bit the profile of face and add underglaze paint. And actually this piece is also near me, and it has small legs on another side, so it's small plate, and I think it fits the theme. And this one, just simple print of a real flower, and for me this is really some part of beautiful memories, because if you will see the one leaf, it has a shape of a heart. Can you see maybe, I don't know, in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really on this flower, and kind of very special. And I think it's more like pastel palette, something about nostalgia, some old times panel, and it's only maybe hang on a wall, but maybe even can be used for serving or something, like you can put some bread or I don't know, cookies on it and put it on the table.
And that's the last one, right?
Yeah, and another one was last, still in progress, but
oh
yeah.
wait, sorry.
Yeah, this one, unfortunately, it's still greenware, but I was playing here with different parts, and I started from this ball and attached rectangular, and then some other pieces to make this stable. And for me, it was a question, would I like to do this functional or not? And finally, I decided that it will be. And so I cut this hole, and there is a space between ball and rectangular. So it might be way still the bottom for, I don't know, one steam flower or some something can be inside. And probably I'd like to do it, maybe if you see my kind of project, maybe it will be very, very bright coloring. And this probably 12 inches.
Any questions for Elena? All right, okay. Ekaterina.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
I made a whole bunch of this ceramic toys. It's in the shape of, I don't know, tetrahedron. Is it right word? So in our childhood, we had milk in cartoons like this shape. So I decided I will work with this geometric shape and put some organic decoration on it. It hand carved, and I made probably 10 or 12 of them, and they are functional. You can make patterns on the sand or use it like small stone garden or something like this. So I can show you real piece like this. Some of them raku fired and some of them cone 5 like this. So that's it.
They're so fun.
Yeah, and I have lots of them. I was planning to make sun watch like this shadow. I have 12, so I can make like mandala with this and play with it.
Do you have individual triangles you put together, or is it a flat piece that you fold up to make that shape?
Actually, it was extruded tube. I cut tube in this shape and just smash the edges. So it long extruded tube.
Oh, wow. So was the tube a triangle when it came out?
Yes, if you
I got it. Yeah, the die.
Yeah, I have problem with the language. So if you cut a short piece of this tube and smash this edges in different directions, you will get this shape.
Okay.
So I get this idea from this milk boxes. It's called Tetra Pak. So you can see how they did this. So it also was like plastic paper tube.
All right. Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's like small trick.
Lots of inspiration at that grocery store. So,
yeah.
There is everywhere. Does anybody have any other questions for Katerina?
I have to do a shout out to both Katerina and Elena. If you see these pictures here, when you see the marvelous mug pictures for our third marketplace, they did an amazing photograph of the mugs in the sand dunes with the ocean in the background. It just blew me away. So I had to give them a shout out for their work with Ellen on that.
Thank you. Yay. Okay. All right, Sandy, are you still here? Sandy. You'll have to unmute yourself, Sandy, if you're here. I can't really see.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Okay.
You. Yay.
Yay. Well, this is a piece that kind of evolved thinking about fruits and vegetables and leaves, and this is kind of a papaya looking thing. And then we have some leaf structures here. And it was just, this is raised ropes of dark clay. And then it is adhered to a flat base of white clay. So I could get a contrast rather than trying to paint them. It's dark clay and light clay together. And I just really got into it. I thought it was great fun. So that's my piece.
How big is it?
It is probably about 12 inches by 8 inches. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Really beautiful. Do people have questions for Sandy? All right, okay. And Zananda, are you there?
I am here.
All righty, let's look at your pot.
Okay. So yeah, I just got these out of the kiln like 2 days ago. It's all cone 10, heavy duty reduction. This first one is basically a stamp mold that I used from a fossilized coral that I bought on eBay. So I had this idea about making these coral pots, and the glaze there it's experimental. That's basically a test, and it turned out kind of cool with the different colorations. With I'm adding some of that 400 mesh silicon carbide to get the glazes to foam up like that. They're reacting. There's copper glaze, and there's some other oxides that are mixing together to make that coloration. These are cactus pots because I have a big cactus collection, and I'm into the cactus. So this is my line of cactus pots, but this is a new design. And so this is really interesting. My friend Patrick, he's big on finding glazes. And so this glaze, which is the purple between, it's a natural crawling glaze. This is my first test with it. And so the cracks, the white is just be mixed with sand, and it's just raw, and then it's heated up and it's cracked apart under extreme heat, and so it's hand built and thrown, and then that glaze between, it's just he goes and picks it up off the ground, and we mix it here and put it between the cracks, and it turns out like that. And what's cool about this glaze that I thought was that the side that was towards the flames seemed to like get nice and gooey, and then the side that wasn't towards the flames was really matte, and you can see the variations in that picture. That's why I showed that pic.
Interesting.
So in the next picture, so this is one of my cactus pots. It's kind of geometric with the lines and the cracks, and it's raw clay. It's got a porcelain slip. It's got, I think, 3 or 4 different clay bodies in it to get the coloration behind it. And that's cracked under a lot of heat. And so you can see the clay behind the porcelain there slip. And then between it, it's a new glaze that I absolutely love with. It's another crater glaze that I figured out how to make. It kind of looks like it's a like sea foam, or it almost looks like it's fossilized. So I have a whole series of fossil pots coming out utilizing that glaze. And so this is a series of pots I've been working on for several years, and I'm just trying to come up with new designs and new inventions for these radical cactus, because the cactus are so crazy themselves. They need a vessel to basically pair with. So it's a whole thing. Anyway, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Okay. I think that's it. But is Patrick Shower, if I'm saying that right, are you on here? Because I did get your email after I could finish this, but I could show your photos from the email if you're on here.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
And you
so
can go ahead and show if you can.
Yeah, give me a sec. Just give me 1 second. I think I can manage this.
Sorry I was late.
That's okay. Yeah, I need a little more than 15 minutes, but that's okay. Let's see. I need your email. Okay.
07.
Okay. Here you go. Okay, so here are your 2 shapes. So we'll show them like this. Talk.
Okay. These are made out of Coleman porcelain. They're about 7 inches by 6 inches.
You need to share
And-
the screen. We can't see them.
Oh, duh. Okay, let me try that. I
Yeah,
can
that
see
would
just
probably help.
fine, everybody. Don't know what your
And-
problems are. Here we go.
These guys are fish with hopefully a geometric form on them.
Yeah.
So these
So I-
were fired cone 10 Coleman porcelain with oops, I'm having a little upfit in the background. Lars blue with some green. I think it was a couple different glaze combinations there. This guy's more or less of a test glaze, but he came out with the more or less of a geometric pattern. So I hoped it qualified.
Now, those are the only two pictures you sent me. I didn't know if you thought you sent me another one too.
No, those are the only two.
Okay, all right. So, unless someone's joined us that has a pot they'd like to show live, speak now. Oh, well, okay. I want to remind everybody that's juried, even if you're not plus for this one exception, we're offering to post these on the online store and feature them in the month of August, and we'll do Facebook posts and boost them, and you are able to offer them for sale without the W-9 or the contract or anything. You just need to fill out a submission form so I can know what to say about your piece and how you want to fulfill it. But that's an opportunity for everybody. And so some of you sent that form in with their photographs, so that's great. Stuff will be up on the online store August 1st. But if any of you weren't sure or whatever, you can do it. All you need to do is fill out one submission form that's attached to this month's newsletter, or you can just email me at stacer2000@gmail and I can send it to you, or you can also download it off the internet, off the vcpg.org on the members page. And we will feature you, and you can try selling on the online store with very little fuss. So now I think I'm going to turn it over to Terry, because I think she wants to say something about what we're going to do for our next challenge, which will likely be our
in progress.
Okay, Stacy and I kind of figured out that there's two different ways to have a theme, and one is based on a technique, and the other is based on a concept. So we want to alternate between the two. So this was a conceptual theme, and now we need to figure out what our next theme for the challenge is going to be, and we want it to be some kind of technique. So if anybody has any ideas, if you want to throw them out now, speak up, or we could have just a little discussion about that. We already did a surface decoration, and there's so many different techniques if there's something that somebody would like to explore. Ideally, you learn something new from these challenges and do something that you've never done before. That's one way to look at this. The other way is to revisit past projects and things that you did in the past that you enjoyed doing. Maybe that would be a source of inspiration for choosing the next theme. Anybody have any ideas about themes, techniques?
Is there any way to get like a list of things that have already been done or gone?
We can tell
tried
you because
in
this
the
is only
past
like
by,
our
by everybody?
Yeah,
Sort of-
yeah, we've only done a few. We
Oh,
kicked
okay.
around some ideas in the past, and threw out some ideas on Member Connect that we could do, and some things came up would be like sgraffito, agate ware, you know, where you marble clay.
a bunch of that.
You know, those are techniques that maybe not everybody has done, and would be something that's pretty accessible. Those are just two that come to the top of my head.
But to answer your question, Ian, the ones we've done before was triangles and surface decorations other than glaze, right? And then this was
then this is the third one.
The third one. So that's all we've done so far.
Yeah.
So the world's wide open.
Okay.
What do you think, Ms. Swanson?
Well, I'm thinking soft and hard. You have soft shapes and you have hard shapes. I don't know how, you know, you go from there, but.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, we could.
question.
I was gonna say we could put together a list and send it out on Member Connect, and then people could comment. So yeah, Yvonne, did you have something?
Yvonne, what did you want to say?
I just have a question because I'm so new. How often does this happen?
I think right now we're shooting for twice a year. So we've done 2 at our Christmas parties, and that seemed to be nice. And then we've done this one in July? In July. So 2 a year, we think. So.
Yeah, we were thinking the Christmas party and then one in the summer. And that gives you plenty of time to do something, and they're not so far apart that you forget about it, So I guess we're looking at the Christmas party, the December meeting, which is not necessarily, in fact, it is not the 4th Monday. It'll be earlier in the month, so it won't collide with Christmas and Hanukkah and all that stuff. And yeah, usually the last couple of years since COVID, it's been, I think, the 2nd Monday, or kind of earlier like that.
I think it was the 14th last year, so
yeah,
close to that. Yeah.
I have an idea. What about multiple pieces?
Ah,
Have to have more than one piece combined to make the whole.
That's interesting.
Yeah, components that get assembled to a final piece.
Okay.
Or just, other separate pieces that you make them as separate pieces, but then combine them together as a permanent piece.
I like that. I like that.
Almost like a puzzle, like it almost fit like a puzzle, 2 puzzle pieces?
Could be.
Or cohesive. They represent cohesion between the 2 pieces. It's limitless.
Well, now this is starting to veer into the arena of concept.
That's okay.
We're kind of, that's okay. We're kind of looking for technique, more. But yeah, no, that's a good. I like that idea, but as concept.
What about
like what
sticking
Ian
with
did?
How about sticking with either patterns or Mishima or the Sgraffito?
Yeah, I think Mishima was one that we mentioned also in a like a short list of things.
Graffito is a lot of fun to do if you haven't done it.
Yeah. I kind of like Sgraffito because I find it accessible. It's not too complicated.
And it works on hand-built pieces as well as thrown.
Yeah, exactly. It could go on any kind of piece, sculptural, throne, hand building, whatever.
Yvonne, did you
Well,
want to?
I feel like it's a good time to let you know that next month our guest speaker is Patty Griffin, who is an expert at Sgraffito.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So that might be good.
And we had talked about trying to tie it in with program presentation. So.
Yeah, and we tied in the surface decoration with a couple of presentations that were about that topic. So yeah, that's
Perfect.
good.
And then we have the next one too. The next one too, we can do the multiple pieces. We'll figure out, you know, how to be more precise about that. And maybe we can find somebody to do a program in the spring, because that would be a year from now. So
yeah,
sounds good. Well,
Everybody likes the idea of Sgraffito then.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Well,
let's do it. All right.
All right. Well, I think this concludes the clay challenge. Does it, Terry?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's a winner.
Yeah. And Wynn, does that conclude our meeting, or you got more to say?
I got nothing else other than nice pots.
Really? I know.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice work. Yeah.
And I can post the PowerPoint somewhere too, so people can look at it, maybe on the VCP.
Member Connect or on the website. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Thanks everybody for being here. I'll see you next month.